So thank you very much. Can you all hear me okay? Great. So I hope you're all enjoying the first afternoon here at ATM, and thank you for joining us. I'm Priya Patel. I'm brand development lead for Instagram across the Middle East, and we're here today to talk to you about how to stand out from the crowd in today's digital travel industry. We know that people's passion for travel is more apparent than ever, but in a consumer's experience, travel has just changed dramatically. This requires a fundamental change to the way travel is sold and their customer experience as they go along that journey. Instagram is seeing this evolution and is now a thriving international community. We have 500 million daily active users globally who tap into Instagram to explore passions and things that matter to them. Instagram Stories, with its real-time and immersive format, has seen a huge adoption rate. We launched Instagram Stories in August of 2016, and since then it's grown to 300 million strong daily users. And as a platform, it's now the perfect home for people with a passion for traveling, giving them a place to share photos, upload their own experiences, show those little hidden gems, the best restaurants that they've been to, and so on. Globally, nearly 1 million accounts are tagged with #travel every single week. And nearly 60% of travelers here in the Middle East use Instagram as a source of inspiration on where to go and what to see. Which means for brands, this is the best place to be. Brands can inspire key audiences by utilizing Instagram and seeing business results on the platform, a platform where audiences of millions are enjoying, sharing, and engaging. So today we wanted to bring across a different number of perspectives from across the industry and dive into some trends, the challenges that exist, and for them to share how they're using Instagram for their businesses and their audience. And with that, I'd like to introduce the panel that we have today. So to my right, immediate right, we have Aida Mohammed Al-Basedi, who's Director of C2C Campaigns for Dubai Tourism. Yes, big round of applause for Aida. Aida has a strong passion for Dubai, where she believes unprecedented growth has taken place in the last decade. With 15 years of experience, Aida has worked both across agencies and brands, including Dubai Holding and Mazda. Currently the Director of C2C Campaigns for Dubai Tourism, she is responsible for implementing consumer campaigns and leveraging the entire social ecosystem, both domestically and abroad. And most importantly, she's responsible for generating highly impactful UCG campaigns, which is the primary source of content for Dubai Tourism, which she uses to promote Dubai as that tourism destination. Aida also has an interest in journalism and regularly contributes to the national newspaper. Thank you for being here today, Aida. Second to my, on the end, Michelle Karam, who is the founder of Travel Junkie Diary and Travel for a Purpose. Michelle is a Dubai-based entrepreneur and one of the region's biggest bloggers. She is the founder of Travel Junkie Diary, which if you've not seen, is an incredible blog on Instagram, which she started 5 years ago, and since she hasn't stopped blogging. She's now a strong and loyal following by creating a platform for individuals, for them to share their own personal encounters and also inspirational experiences. With over 22 years' experience in the travel industry, Michelle has also founded Travel for Purpose, an initiative to help those who need guidance, especially when they're traveling for volunteer work, marine conservation, and animal welfare. Thank you, Michelle. And in the middle, we have Charlie Taylor, who's the Group Director for Brand Communications Jumeirah Group. Charlie is a PR and communication specialist who has an incredible background in shaping the reputation of cities, organizations, and brands. With over 15 years' experience, Charlie has worked for the likes of Dubai Tourism, Nakheel, and Dubai World Trade Center. Charlie is currently the Group Director of Brand Communications, responsible for driving Jumeirah Group's communication strategy across the portfolio of hotels, both in the UAE and internationally. More specifically, he is responsible for redefining social media content strategy, including allowing consumers to discover the different hotels and resorts and then be inspired to travel to Dubai. So this is a very incredible panel. and we're excited to have you all here with us today. So I'd like to kick off by asking a series of questions that's applicable for all of you around the general industry and marketing to your consumers. What do you think is the number one challenge for travel brands this year? The predicted key trends in 2018 were technology and local experiences. Has this happened? And I'll start with you, Ida.
Can you hear me? Yeah, that's loud. Thanks, Priya and Instagram, Facebook for allowing us to be part of this panel, and it's a good thing that we all know each other. I think it's not necessarily just the brand or the platforms that define the travel industry. I think today in the world of consumers redefining what travel is meant to be, it pretty much defines the way that our strategy works. And I think a lot of people can maybe complement the same thing that I've just said right now. And we're trying to sometimes play catch up with what the industry does in terms of the consumerism. But other times as well, we try to, I guess you could say, think 10 years down the line, and specifically for governments, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid announced the 10X initiative last year, which is basically to put Dubai ahead of all the cities, by 10 times, and that's across all sectors and industries, and that's very true to what we do right now. So it's not just the travel and tourism industry alone, but it's also consumer thinking, consumer trends, and so on and so forth.
How everything's evolving.
Yeah.
Charlie? Oh, Michelle.
Okay. Hi. Thanks for having me here. I think the number one challenge for the travel brands today is competition. Travel has been extremely open to so many people today thanks to Instagram, and the way people purchase travel today is completely different than how it used to be a long time ago. I think people are looking more for experiential travel more than just a vacation. They're looking to take that photogenic shot for Instagram or Facebook and to come back and to show their friends. So I think the travel brands there have a huge shift in demand from raising the bar and making more experiential travel, offering something that not everyone has of the same. Airbnb is a perfect example of offering an experiential platform because it's different. No two places or stays are the same. You offer authentic stays, eating with the locals, and this is what people are looking for. They're yearning for that adventure with the local and more authentic. And I think the travel brands today have to look more into giving that more authentic feel than just getting involved more into their rooms if it's a hotel, for example. But yeah, that's what I definitely think is the number one challenge for today's competition.
And I think, so not to repeat what Michelle and Ida both said, so I think from a more commercial point of view, I think it's a proliferation of channels and ways of reaching a consumer, and where the cost per acquisition, so where is the best place to put your money? There's so many, 20 years ago you'd put your money into outdoor advertising or a great advert in Condé Nast, and that was your marketing strategy. And I think now there's so many channels you could put that money towards. So it's really being able to define that channel strategy and then tracking that ROI. And then I think secondly, in the social media, you guys have a habit of changing your algorithm quite regularly. So keeping up with those changes and adapting to those, and Ida talks about looking 20 years ahead. It's quite hard at the coalface to do that, because who knows what Instagram and Facebook and other channels will do in 2 months' time. So it's having that flexibility and the adaptability to change.
Absolutely, and it's very difficult to predict what the changes and the future kind of trends as well. In terms of marketing, what is the priority for each one of you this year, especially when you think about how the customer journey has changed? Do you think it's changed dramatically over the last year? We'll start with you, Charlie.
Well, for Jumeirah, our priority are twofold. We have a number of new openings this year, so including Jumeirah at Saadiyat Island, we have Jumeirah Nanjing, and we have a number of others. And secondly, we recently launched a new brand, Zabeel House, and under the Zabeel House by Jumeirah brand, we have 3 new hotels opening this year, one that's already open down at Al Seef. So our challenge is, I guess, where do we focus our time? And with the Zabeel House brand, how do we differentiate it in marketing and social from a Jumeirah brand and really build a new brand from scratch?
Michelle?
Of course, the digital revolution has changed the way consumers buy travel and market our travel as well. My number one marketing tool is, of course, social media. When it comes to blogging, there's an Instagram. There are different tools on Instagrams that I use to promote my articles or any campaigns I work with travel brands. There's also something the number one marketing tool is when you stay true to yourself from the very beginning. Everyone knows when I first started this, I'm very much into sustainable travel, trying to get the message out there. This is why we created Travel for a Purpose. We try to promote that more with Insta stories, highlights, obviously the blog as well. But the number one tool is always social media, Facebook for the numbers of shares. And today we're so lucky because a lot of people are being able to purchase travel through social media. They can just go to an Instagrammer or their friend on Instagram that's been somewhere, and they, without them knowing, they've been marketing their vacation without even having to do any effort. You know, they don't need to be an Instagrammer or an influencer or a blogger. But through friends and through social media, Instagram had provided the best tool for marketing travel industries.
Thank you.
The way that we look at any challenge is more of an opportunity. And back to 2012, Dubai Tourism was basically marketing to an average of 6 to 8 markets. That's now expanded to over 30 to 40 approximately, and each market is very different than the other, and the strategies are constantly changing. In some instances, yes, social media and primarily Instagram, Facebook are our high priority in terms of our 360-degree marketing, and always look at it from a mixed perspective. So it's not just Instagram, social, or influencer marketing. I mean, we do supplement it with so many other things as well. Traditional marketing and traditional media play a really big role. In other instances, Facebook, Instagram don't play a really big role in a specific market, and that's where we need to diversify our platforms, albeit it being social or non-social as well. And just jumping on what Michelle had said as well, each country strategy, I guess, is also very different. And, you know, the resident aspect of what we do plays a really big role in also promoting. So it's not just the platforms that we have or the platforms that the social influencers that we work with, but it's other people who use their platforms that we don't have access to. I mean, even WhatsApp has picked up quite a lot, and lots of sharing happens on WhatsApp as a platform, but that's not a visible platform to us as well. So those are things that we need to look at. You know, it's not just the obvious platforms that people use, it's also the non-obvious platforms that we need to tap into.
Absolutely. Thank you for your perspective. How do you think, so let's talk a little bit more about the travel industry. How do you think the industry itself has fared in embracing digital, especially as this is how consumers are engaging? And how do you think that's changed in the last few years? I'll start with Michelle.
The travel industry is among the top 5 sectors that have embraced the digital wave on social media. Today in this region, especially here, we're seeing a lot of openness to using social media two ways. One, working with bloggers, influencers, and in another way, travel brands being online. It's for the savvy traveler now, and you need to get on board in order for you to ride that wave. And so they're much more open in finding out exactly who they want to work with, what kind of message they want to send across to. Campaigns have been launched working with the regional travel bloggers, and I think it's very, very important for travel brands to realize that when they're online, it's all on real time, and it works to their advantage, because a lot of brands come up to us and say, well, what if a guest for a hotel, for example, is unhappy with their room, and they go online and they just say something bad about the room. Well, I think it's a great advantage for hotel brands, because then they get to
everything's on real time. They get to rectify their mistakes in front of everyone, and everyone gets to see how they're managing their mistakes. And I think this goes up a lot of respect to the hotel brand as well. So I think it's a great wave to be at.
Want to go next?
Definitely. Every brand, not just business conglomerates or commercial businesses, but even personal brands need to be online. It's a space that's only going to move faster and bigger. But putting your eggs in one basket, I'm sure everybody knows that saying, is definitely not self-sufficient for any business or even an individual. And we can't predict what changes might happen on a specific platform as well, right? And I think if a person only uses one single type of platform in order to communicate whatever message they have or whatever branding they have, then you're already at a loss. And at this point in time, in this day and age, diversifying is really important for us. So, as I mentioned earlier, using platforms that are not necessarily the visible platforms. We are a tourism destination authority at the end of the day. So it's great to have fashion bloggers, but that's not necessarily the end result of what we would want as an outcome. The outcome is to actually drive visitation to Dubai. We have a big goal to reach, which is 20 million visitors by 2020. And, you obviously need to segment the type of people you want to work with. You also need to look at, varied times of travel, holiday season, what's interesting to them. And the proposition that we have for Dubai is an all-encompassing proposition. It's come to Dubai, but then there's 3 things that you can do, but extend your stay and there's like 7 things that you can do. So, it's things like that you always need to think about. And if you're not fluid as a business or even as a government entity, and if the consumers are also not fluid themselves, then there's a mismatch in the type of communications that you're trying to have. So yeah, we're always looking at opportunities, and I think right now we're exploring things where even we don't have quantifiable results. Testing and trying new things is also part of our mandate, and we think that works as well. Even if it's looking at micro and nano influencers as well, and not just the mega ones. These are the types of conversations that we're having today too.
Something to cater to each audience as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Charlie?
Well, just briefly, digital's radically changed travel, right, in the last 20 years, and things like Booking.com and Expedia.com have completely changed how hotels acquire their customer. For us, we work with OTAs, etc., but our most profitable customer comes from Jumeirah.com. So a lot of our strategy, especially in social media, and we put social at the heart of this, is driving people into Jumeirah.com. And once we have them in our website, and I hate the term, but within our ecosystem, we can then build the brand affinity through the content we create and through our social media engagement. So, we hotels have had to adapt to that growth of platforms like Booking.com and Expedia.
Okay, thank you very much. And if we look at it from a customer perspective, what do you think today's travel consumers are after, especially in this environment? Is it good deals? Is it the tips? Is it, the ability to be able to share? I'd love to hear your perspective.
It's a combination of a lot of things. It really depends on who you're talking to. There is a segment that we probably should look more into, and it's the new. I don't want to be rude and term them millennials, because we might fall into the millennial segment as well. There's an age range apparently, but who knows? But it's a new age of people who are coming into the travel realm, where they're making the decisions of traveling not just inter-country or inter-region, but just making this decision to actually travel abroad, and they have the spending power, and that's the type of consumer that we also want to look into. I think travel trends, as all of us have already mentioned, have changed so drastically in the last 10 to 15 years approximately, that you've either got to keep up or you've got to be ahead of the curve. And I think a lot of the times, sometimes we get the formula right. There is no right or wrong way of actually attracting people. It's just defining what the value proposition is. And when you have 30 or 40 and even up to 50 markets that you need to cater to, each market is extremely different than the other ones. The conversations that you have with a group of people who are probably 45 and above with children is very different than a millennial segment in a completely different market. So how do you take the value proposition of an entire state and sell the destination for each person, and that's really not defined by one singular mechanics or one singular marketing method. So it's really varied, and and that's why we're always trying to stay ahead of the curve. So the traditional destination tools are always there. We do have the OTAs, we do have the travel agents. We're present here at ATM, enhancing the experiences, even if it's just taking the existing assets that we have and adding on an additional value in there to say, well, here you go, I have something else to add, come back again and we'll do something additional for you. So those are the types of things that we look for as well. So we're not like your regular destination package, and that's what we're trying to look into.
Thank you.
I think it's quite a simple answer in what do travelers want. I think travelers want to know that their weekend or 1 week holiday or 2 week holiday they've spent it in the best way, in the value, whether they've bought a 5-star luxury hotel or whether they bought an Airbnb for a week. They want to know that they have the opportunity cost is low. So for us as a hotel, that means every stage of that booking journey, we need to give the best possible experience. So the experience in the hotel, yes, but also in that dreaming part. We have a lot of people on our social media channels in our Jumeirah hotels. A lot of people say, oh, can't wait to be there in 2 weeks, we're going soon. And that anticipation, it might be a 2 week holiday, but actually when you book your holiday 6 months out, you start looking forward to it, right? So in that dreaming phase is really important. Then the booking phase, obviously got to be as smooth as possible, and they've got to know they're booking the best options, the experience themselves, and then the sharing and the endorphin, the dopamine that hits you when you get a like on the photograph that you've shared. It might be a new angle of the Burj Al Arab or somewhere in Madinat Jumeirah that people haven't seen before. So your whole journey of your holiday, you want to know you've spent it in the best way. And I think that for a tourism, for a destination brand or a hotel is really important to focus on every stage.
And also creating that buzz, as you said. And I think a platform like Instagram is so important in that anticipation phase as well, especially when they can keep on going back to that brand's profile or hashtag to see what other people are doing there and share their experiences as well. Michelle?
Yes, so true. The passion for travel has grown so much. Over the years, people, like I've said before, the way they purchase travel is completely different of how they used to today. We have such a huge amount of choices and options. We can get through to so many people to find out exactly what we want in our travel. Instead of spending days, weeks, months building an itinerary, we can build an itinerary in a day now, thanks to Facebook and social media, Instagram, connecting with people we don't even know. Today, millennials are even more confident than ever to just go. Before, it was in the old days, it was difficult to just go. Today, we can go. The millennials are traveling alone. Parents, mothers are being able to do decisions based on what the Instagrammer or what they see online. They can directly ask a question. How's the kids club? Is it big enough? Can you show it to me? How's the rooms? Are there vegan options? And that's real-time direct information, which makes your travel choices much easier, which hotel brands and travel brands need to be aware of it as well, to keep up to date with all the technologies and all the communications in between Instagrammers and followers, if you want to call them. But definitely the whole shift in easy travelers. Now people are spending much more money as well on being able to travel to faraway places, like the campaign I've done with Travel with TJT. A lot in a week's time, we've got a full 8 people join the trip in 1 week, and it wasn't a cheap or expensive trip, but it was all the way to Scandinavia, and they didn't know anyone, and they wanted to get on board with the trip. And I felt that there was more of a dropping everything and let's do it, because now social media is so open to destinations. They can see where they're going, and I think that gives them a sense of safety in a way.
Yeah, I think there's a great sense of comfort in being able to see it. Of course, it takes an element of surprise away, but people just feel that they know what to expect when they're going to these destinations as well. And then the last question for you all for this point, if we think about domestic marketing here in the UAE, What are those unique aspects, and what do you have to always consider when you're doing the domestic marketing?
Well, we've embedded the Dubai festivals and retail establishment under the DTCM wing. So the festivals, which are obviously over 2 decades long, and there's one coming up soon, Dubai Summer Surprises, in case you didn't know. Those two, I think, play an extremely big pillar in terms of attracting not just internationally but residents-wise. It's something to do. It's additional. It also places our pillars and our value proposition back into the minds of the consumers, and these are the resident consumers. And then to top it off, we've also added Dubai Food Festival, and Charlie and I worked on it in the inaugural Dubai Food Festival, and that's also putting the gastronomy proposition for Dubai on the map as well. You know, it's and a lot of people didn't know that this is what you could potentially do in Dubai. You know, you could dine, you know, and fine dining, and these are the potential things that you can do, or you can dine in a place that under the stars and just getting a little bit more value for your money, you know, not just the meal. But that's one aspect, obviously, from a festivals and events perspective. And of course, you know, the private sector plays a really big role in terms of the concerts. I was just at the Backstreet Boys concert this past weekend, and that was something I didn't realize that there were 15,000 people sitting in one arena itself, and that attracted a lot of people, and 90% of them were actually residents, and the other 10%, you know, flew out just to see the Backstreet Boys. So those are just small examples of things that are already happening in here. But a key thing that we're doing as Dubai Tourism, and this was launched approximately a little bit over 4 years ago, was the hashtag My Dubai initiative under the Crown Prince, His Highness Sheikh Hamdan. That actually positioned Dubai as more of, well, you know what, this city is for us, it's our city, and the content that's produced is just content that's produced by everybody for everybody else. It's all user generated. It tells you about all the things that just normal people are doing. It's not a government initiative. It's not a private sector initiative. But the idea behind it is that, you know, people are going to go and create some of their own experiences as well within the destination, and they're going to create this amazing and compelling content, and it's just going to attract other people, their friends. And there's so many people who are always contacting us saying, I didn't know that this even existed, and it's just because something was reposted back on our channel, and they know that this is a channel that if I wanted to see what my friends are doing, or if I wanted to appear in there because I tried a really new experience, it's something that's just for the people. So that's one aspect in terms of domestic travel. And we have been pushing recently a lot of staycations, especially for the summer. That's why Dubai Summer Surprises is a really good value proposition for us. It's not just a festival, it's also about the destination, and it's also about the hotels as well. So, and they're pushing it too. So it's a combination, I think, of the industry. So it's government, private, and consumers coming together.
Great. Charlie?
I think domestically, when I was at Dubai Tourism, I got very excited when I heard about 10 new hotels opening. Jumeirah, I'm less excited because domestically it's competition, right? We all know how many hotels there are in Dubai, and as a hotel group, that means you've got to continue to improve the guest experience. The Dubai population, me included, tend to be quite fussy as well, and quite quick to say when there's a negative experience, but to be fair, also very quick to get behind a new brand or a new experience or a new restaurant and show that support. So it's really, the UAE resident population are a really, really important market to get it right, and they as My Dubai showed, they very quickly become the advocates. So for Jumeirah, that means we constantly looking at how we can not give back because we want to take the money, but how we can enhance the experience for UAE residents and make sure that UAE residents are advocates for Jumeirah, which is obviously a homegrown brand.
And to your point, Ida, when you're talking about all of the events and all of the different initiatives that are running domestically, now more than ever, there seems to be that pre-buzz created as well. So everybody knew that Backstreet Boys was the hottest ticket in town.
Yes,
the fact
absolutely.
that it was a sellout gig as well
Yeah,
created a
absolutely.
further buzz.
And concerts today are not like the concerts that we didn't have that many 10 to 20 years ago. It's an actual full-fledged experience, right? You come here, I know people that went to the concert, they live a little bit far away, but they picked hotels that were around the area so that they could, so it was a full-fledged experience. It was actually having a mini staycation over a weekend, going to the concert, the F&B that was there as well, you know, and then just coming out with an all-rounded experience to say, well, this is what I did this weekend, and it was in Dubai. So I mean, if we had to sum it up, what we need to do is basically just kind of do the links together and not as a standalone, because today's consumer looks at it as an experience, not just, oh, I'm going to book a hotel experience, or I'm going to go to the theme park, or I'm going to go to a concert. I want to go to the concert, I'm going to have my dinner there, and this is what I'm going to do. It's my family takeoff for the weekend. So people think of a user journey in that perspective, and we need to get on board with thinking of a user experience that's a fully integrated user experience. And then obviously the shareability of it as well on Instagram or on Facebook, and you kind of just create sub-communities and niches because of the interests that just all of a sudden come up. Now there's a whole Backstreet Boy, I guess you could say, love and affinity and smaller different consumer groups, so if you wanted to retarget those people in the future, that's a way of doing it. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, you all have such unique backgrounds and experiences. I'd love to delve into each one of those and ask you a few questions individually. So I'll start with Charlie. You've already talked a little bit about Jumeirah's main focuses for 2018, and you did mention Zabeel House and the Zabeel group of properties. Now, as I understand, they're aimed at travellers who want to discover more of the city that they've come to stay in, as opposed to just the resort side of things. And you've used Instagram a little bit in the strategy. So do tell us about the strategy and how you've promoted this property.
So Zabeel House by Jumeirah is a brand that we launched earlier this year. It's eventually going to be a collection of what we call upscale casual hotels, starting off with 3 properties in Dubai and then moving further afield. And what we mean by upscale casual is great locations in what we call interesting neighborhoods. So not necessarily or not AAA locations, but locations in maybe that neighborhood you discover on your second or third visit to a city at what we say compelling value. What that means is low prices, and by Jumeirah, which means you get that service quality and that credibility of the Jumeirah brand behind it. So it's a new brand for us. Instagram was core to our launch strategy for a number of reasons. One, you mentioned the target audience. The target audience are what we call global nomads, which are people who want to experience, discover, and share. So obviously social media is at the heart of that. And when we launched, we chose, with the launch of the first hotel, Zabeel House Mini down at El Seef, we chose not to launch a hotel Instagram feed. We launched with Zabeel House brand feed. Now what that meant was taking a few risks and not doing what standard hotel Instagram strategy would be. So a standard Instagram strategy for a hotel would be show the most photogenic spots in the hotels. Now a key brand standard of Zabeel House is great design, so they're very, very photogenic, but we'd rather that be discovered through user-generated content and for our guests. So what we've done, and I think you probably can't see from the back, so if you go on to @Zabeel House, you'll see this content. We've gone with a video only, video and carousel only strategy. So we're kind of adapting to the changes to the algorithm in January. Trying to get very high engagement. We're not necessarily worried for now about huge growth of followers. So we're going for high engagement, which the videos are showing, and we're getting at the moment around 50% of our followers, which is a low base at the moment, but every video is getting engagement from around 50%, which is very high. We're not, as I said, we're not showing the beautiful parts of the hotels. We're using the hotels as stages to show little scenes that are part of the brand personality. So you might see a breakdancer breakdancing around the hotel. You might see our pocket room, our little mini pocket room, being filled up in stop motion by loads of guests. So we're playing with video formats. The captions are very, very friendly and very playful. So that's another thing that's a little bit different to Jumeirah Hotels. We worked with a new social media agency here in Dubai called the Y Project, who are more flexible and adaptable than maybe the bigger agencies. So we really worked with them on crafting that strategy from the beginning. And the first batch of videos which are now alive spell out a phrase. They spell out, "Hey, we're open." So we're also having a play with how the feed looks. So it's about, as I said, adapting to the Instagram algorithm changes and really defining a brand presence rather than a hotel presence.
Okay, and it's great. I mean, the videos look fantastic. So my friends at the back have told me we've got 10 minutes left for the whole panel. So we're going to have to speed through some of these questions, but obviously the topic is so interesting. What are people most passionate about when it comes to the Jumeirah Group, and what are you looking to tap into when you create these campaigns for your community?
I think guest experience. We said it before that a holiday is all about the experience you get from beginning to end. So people are passionate about that, and we have fairly strong Jumeirah brand stands around that. So that means in our marketing and our social, we're trying to show the guest experience. So for Instagram feeds in particular across the Jumeirah hotels, it's all about carefully crafted content that show core commercial messages and the core guest experiences, and then peppering that with hero moments. So whether it's working with Ida and her team on putting Anthony Joshua boxing on the helipad at Burj Al Arab, or working with X Dubai to have a kite surfer jump off the helipad or wakeboard around canals at Madinat. So those big moments, but then the important thing is actually that consistent content that communicates the guest experience. And again, InstaFeed, all about dreaming. It's all about making that person who see it want to be there now, whether they've booked or not.
Yeah. And I also particularly love the way that you do have that different strategy for each one of your hotels and your group, and you communicate exactly what that is and what the customer can expect when they visit. On to one of my favorite properties, the Burj Al Arab, which was voted the most popular hotel on Instagram globally. How did you go about creating this following? And what type of results have you seen from Instagram?
Well, yeah, so it's actually the most followed hotel on Instagram, not voted. So although our followers have moved their feet, so the most followed hotel on Instagram.
I'm not. Popular as well.
You've got some images. I'm not going to take any credit because it was that before I joined Jumeirah. I think initially we had it easy. It's a very iconic property, and one of the bucket lists of people coming to Dubai is to get their photograph of the Burj Al Arab, right? So lots of great exterior shots on Instagram drive high following initially. But commercially, we want to show what's inside Burj Al Arab. So in the last 2 years, we've shown a lot of the guest experiences, and kind of we want to keep that mystique of what's in the hotel, but we also want to show it to make people go inside and see it. So we have quite a carefully crafted content strategy that the team have done, where we're making sure we're showing that balance of the iconic hero shots and then those guest experiences. And that then leads to more user-generated content of people trying to get their unique shots and photographs of what's inside the Burj Al Arab. So I think that then combined with the PR stuff that we've already talked about, like the big stunts on the helipad, and we probably have 20 ideas thrown at us every month for a stunt on the helipad, but obviously that the more you do, the less it has value. So we're very careful in what we do, but things like working with DTCM on that are quite key to then have that spike. And last point from me on that, we've had a 30% growth in followers in the last year across all our Dubai hotels, and I firmly believe that's purely down to having a very careful, constructed themes across each hotel and being very consistent in what we post.
And that's fantastic that you're seeing these results as well. Okay, moving on to you, Ida. You've mentioned that you've seen unprecedented growth take place in Dubai, especially in the last decade. What are the biggest challenges that you've seen, and how has Dubai tourism played a part in this?
I'll just take a step back to what I said earlier, which is we don't look at challenges as barriers. We look at challenges as opportunities, and wherever we look at an opportunity, we try to, I guess you could say, mix and match a lot of the things that we're currently trying to do. Our social media took a big, I guess you could say, boost maybe 3 years ago. We started obviously a little bit earlier, 4.5 years ago, to just kind of take on all the channels, diversify all the channels, customize all the channels as well. We're currently running at a little bit over 108 channels across 18 languages. So you can imagine every single market is catered to, and that's not just on Facebook and Instagram, that's also on YouTube as well. We've even taken a big spike up in finding what our YouTube channel looks like, but also the measurements. I mean, we've been speaking a lot about measurements and what is the added value of you actually being on social media as well. And you know, our listening tool and listening channel is something that we're very proud of, because we literally pick up the conversation in multiple languages and then listen on to what the consumers actually want. So it's not just about reposting content, it's about reposting meaningful content and impactful content for consumers in the future, and also creating some of our own content that's supplementing, you know, the UGC. And I think user-generated content today pretty much helps us to define what the challenges are and where the opportunities are and how to remarket specific things.
Great. And Charlie touched on this briefly. Tell us a little bit more about the Dubai Fitness Challenge that you did with Anthony Joshua. What was the strategy and what kind of results did you see?
So Dubai Fitness Challenge, it was the inaugural year last year, and the mandate was to get everybody to work out for 30 days for 30 minutes. So our target was 100 million workout hours. So the festival ran across 5 different weekends, and each weekend was a carnival. And we jump-started the conversation with Anthony to actually come back to Dubai. And he'd already been a visitor of Dubai and a big fan of Jumeirah as well, as most Brits are. I have to put it that way. And we said, closing weekend, we'd really want to make a big bang, and we had taken the carnivals into different locations. And while he was actually in Dubai, we thought, and why don't we put it up a notch? And because he was already staying at Jumeirah, and Charlie and I had multiple emails, I think, we crossed over 100 emails just having discussions on how to actually take this forward. We all looked at it and said, you know what, on top of him being here for Dubai Fitness Challenge, let's do something that really puts Dubai on the mark. It was Q4 of 2017. I think it was a really big win for all parties. It was consumer, industry, destination. And Anthony, at that point, had just won his 3rd World Championship as well, and now recently his 4th. So it was a good hook to actually capture him. He's a rising star. And his persona matches what Dubai as a brand has, and what Jumeirah as a brand has as well. It's strong, it's willful, it's young, it's flexible, and those are the types of things that we look at as well. It's not just the person representation, it's also the persona as well. And we just casually took a boxing ring on the helipad of Burj Al Arab, and he was sparring, of course. And we captured that, with quite a lot of footage, and it was a big win. So the first instance that we always look at is the person's channel is the most important to us. So you take his video, even though it was co-created between DTCM as well as Jumeirah, but it was about Anthony, and it was about his experience at Jumeirah in Dubai. And so it went out on his channels first, and then the next strategy that we took in order to look at engagement as well as reach was to take that video as well as additional image footage and then send it across to all the fan groups and anything that's associated with Anthony Joshua. So obviously Under Armour is the brand that he's an ambassador for, so we obviously sent it to Under Armour as well, and then Jumeirah and ourselves. So when you look at the amplification and obviously look at the algorithm changes that have happened, diversifying where your content sits plays a really big role for creating a better impact. And till today, and we have the video on our stand as well, it's like the Anthony Joshua video has now set the benchmark for the next thing that we're going to do. So we're stressing out right now for the next
Well, I can't wait to see what you do next. I've got one last quick question, and before I move on to Michelle, we've already touched on the fact that you use UGC to build a lot of your content. I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about how that decision was made, and if you could speak to a couple of particular examples, if you don't mind, that would be great.
So going back to what we said about diversifying our markets, of course, we do obviously have our top 20 source markets. We don't necessarily have a marketing strategy for each of them, but we've predefined some of the new markets as well. And this one specifically, Alan is from Australia, and we looked at our marketing strategy and we said, you know what, if we want to make a specific impact in this particular market on this particular platform, how would we go about it? And so we created this concept of an umbrella approach towards a specific market, but then targeting various groups of people. So the target audiences range from millennials, FIT travelers, couples, as well as families as well. And then we look at the segmentation of the audience. The data for us is extremely important. What kind of interest and what is it exactly that we want to promote as a value proposition? So we worked with a varied list of influencers, but we targeted a specific market in one go. So if you wanted to tackle Australia in this case, or Italy for that particular matter, then you would go to Australia and say, these are all the people that I want to work with over this period of time. These are the places that I'd like for them to create, but let's use the platform in different ways. Alan specifically loves animals, as you can tell. Smiling Camel. And for him, it was not just about Instagramming things, but it was also about creating live content. And for him, live content is actually really good. And I know you had a question about like how do we actually utilize the platform. So we realized that you can't just limit it with just images or just photos on your feed, because a month from now nobody's going to scroll down your feed. But if you want to really make an impact, then use the assets that are currently available on the platform to actually create an impact. So stories plays a really big role for us as well. We've created polls, swipe ups as well. These are really, yeah, we've got lots of different people who've actually contributed to creating really compelling content and just asking the questions. I don't know if you can tell where the last poll is. If you can guess, yeah. If you can guess, you can probably get a room there. But yeah, I mean, asking your followers questions is really good, because what happens is when you capture their engagement, it actually helps us as a destination, but it helps the industry to define what the next experience is going to look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Last but not least, Michelle. And who knew 40 minutes could go so quickly? We've got a few minutes left, if that's okay. Tell us a little bit more about your story, because everybody absolutely loves your content. How did you go about setting up Travel Junkie Diary?
Travel Junkie Diary is the first travel platform in the region. I started 5.5 years ago. I left my career in hospitality for 22 years because I believed in something. I lived in Dubai for 34 years, but I believed there was a gap in the travel industry where people are not inspired and the source of information for travel is lost. So I decided to launch TJD and I knew I had to start somewhere. So I started writing. I've been to 89 countries at that time, and I decided the first thing I need to do is get some views. As I started writing, fast forward a couple of months, a year into that, my passion was the one that was driving me into keep on going strong and believing into that cause. Because in the old day, 5.5 years ago, you'd have fashion bloggers and food bloggers. But what is a travel blogger? Do you know what I mean? What does that mean? What does that actually mean? And so I had to define all odds and try to prove myself to stand out there. But luckily, people started to get to notice the information I have on the blog, and started to contact me and say, can we share our story on the blog? Can we have our information up there? And I said, perfect. So I created a category called Travel Junkie Diaries as well. So they're diaries of other travel junkies. And so it was for friends by friends. So everyone would be sharing their story on TJD's website and then sharing it on Facebook or on Instagram, saying that they've been featured over there. Long story short, it's okay. Long story short, travel brands started to get to notice the work that I've been doing and started to contact me and see how we can collaborate together. And ever since, everything's been falling into place.
Okay, so
Very fast.
I think we've got less than 60 seconds left. So one more question for you, and then we'll just end with a quick fire round for everybody. You've just one question? No? Okay, I'm so sorry.
No.
Everybody, Michelle and I did a live earlier on the Instagram business blog, and she answered some of the similar questions. So please watch that live, because I think we've got somebody else in this room after us. So just to wrap this up very, very quickly, 3 things that I hope you take away from our panel today. As a marketeer, you have to be where the people are. We believe that Instagram is where inspiration and adventure starts, and it's one of the best places to be as a brand. Build your campaigns around moments travel lovers are most engaged with, some of which have been discussed today. And consider cross-promotional opportunities, as travel lovers on Instagram are also passionate as they are with travel, with entertainment, food, lifestyle, and so on. Lastly, I'd like to very much thank Michelle, Ida, and Charlie for your time today and all of your invaluable perspective and point of view as well. Thank you very much.